Meg Cabot, When Lightning Strikes, Chapter 6. Detention in Ernie Pyle High is traditionally run by the staff member with the least seniority. This year, it was Mrs. Clemens, the new art teacher. Now, I don't mean to be sexist, but they had to be kidding. Miss Clemens is barely as tall as me and can't weigh more than I do, like 100 pounds or so. And yet, unlike me, Miss Clemens is hardly an expert kickboxer, or even a mediocre one. But there she was, supposed to keep these giant football players from fighting one another. I mean, it was ridiculous. Coach Albright, I could see. Coach Albright could be able to establish some control, but Miss Clemens? All she could do was threaten to report these guys when they acted up. And all that happened when they got reported was they got longer detentions. Miss Clemens had to keep them from fighting that much longer. It was kind of retarded. So I wasn't super surprised when Miss Clemens, at the start of detention, at the end of the day, called me up to the front of the auditorium and said in her wispy little girl voice, "Jessica, I need to talk to you." I couldn't imagine what Miss Clemens wanted. Oh, all right, I'll admit it. A part of me thought she was going to let me off for the rest of the semester on account of my good behavior. Because I really am a little angel, during detention anyways. That was more than could be said for any one of my fellow detainees, which was, in a way, what she wanted to talk to me about. "It's the W's," she whispered. I looked at her uncomprehendingly. "The W's, Mrs. Clemens?" She went, "Yes, in the back row," and then she pointed at the auditorium seats. It was only then that I caught on. Of course, the W's were seated alphabetically for detention. The guys in the last row, the W's, have a tendency to get a little rambunctious. They'd been restless during rehearsals for West Side Story, rowdy during Romeo and Juliet, and downright rude during Our Town. Now, the drama club was putting on Endgame, and Miss Clemens was afraid a riot might break out. "I hate to ask this of you, Jessica," she said, looking at me with her big blue eyes, "but you're the only girl here, and I found that placing a strong female influence in amongst the predominantly testosterone-driven group has a tendency to diffuse some of the—" "Okay," I said real fast. Miss Clemens looked surprised. Then she looked relieved. "Really? Really, Jessica? You wouldn't mind?" Was she kidding? "No," I said. "I wouldn't mind. Not at all." "Oh," she said, placing a hand to her heart. "Oh, I'm so glad. If you could, then, just sit between Robert Wilkins and the Wendell boy." I couldn't believe it. Some days, you wake up and, okay, maybe you had some whacked out dreams, but then suddenly things start going your way, just like that. I went back to my seat in the M's, picked up my backpack and my flute, and shoved my way down to the W's row until I had gotten the seat between Rob and Hank. There were a lot of catcalls while I did this. Enough so the drama coach turned around and shushed us, and a few of the guys wouldn't pick up their stupid feet and let me by. I got them back, however, by kicking them really hard in the shins. That got them moving all right. We have to sit one seat apart from another, so that necessitated everyone from Rob Wilkins' row moving down one seat over. Only Rob didn't seem to mind. He picked up his leather jacket. He had nothing else, no books, no bag, nothing, except a paperback spy novel he kept in the back pocket of his jeans, and sat down again, his blue eyes on me as I arranged my stuff under my seat. "Welcome to hell," he said to me when I straightened up. I flashed him my best smile. The guy on the other side of him saw it and grabbed his crotch. Rob noticed, looked at him, and said, "You're dead, Wiley." "Shh," Miss Clemens hissed, snapping her hands at us. "If I hear another word back there, you're all getting an extra week." We shut up. I took out my geometry book and started doing some of the homework we'd been assigned for the weekend. I tried not to notice that Rob wasn't doing anything. He was just sitting there, watching the play rehearsal. The guy to my left, Hank Wendell, was making one of those paper footballs. He was using spit instead of tape to hold the paper together. None of the guys in the W's seemed particularly impressed or cowed by my presence. Then, suddenly, Rob leaned over and grabbed my notebook and pen out of my hands. He looked at my homework, nodded, and turned the page. Then he wrote something down and passed the notebook and pen back to me. I looked at what he had written. It was, "So did you get caught in the rain yesterday?" I looked down at Mrs. Clemmings. I'm not sure whether or not you're allowed to pass notes in detention. I never heard of anyone trying it before. But Miss Clemmings wasn't even paying attention. She was watching Claire Lippman perform this really boring monologue from inside a big Rubbermaid trash can. I wrote yes and passed the notebook back to him. Not exactly scintillating or anything, but what else was I supposed to say? He wrote something down and passed the notebook back to me. He had written, "Told you so. Why didn't you ditch the fat girl and come for a ride with me after this?" Jesus Christ, he was asking me out, sort of, and he was also dissing my best friend. "Are you mentally impaired or something?" I wrote. "The fat girl happens to be my best friend." He seemed to like that. He wrote for a long time. When I got the notebook back, this is what he put down. "Jesus, sorry, I had no idea you were so sensitive. Let me rephrase. Why don't you tell your gravitationally challenged friend to take a hike and come for a ride with me after this?" I wrote, "It's Friday night, you loser. What do you think? I don't have plans? I happen to have a boyfriend, you know." I thought the boyfriend part might be stretching a little bit, but he seemed to eat it up. He wrote, "Yeah, well, I bet your boyfriend isn't rebuilding a 64 Harley in his barn." A 64 Harley? My fingers were trembling so hard I can barely write. My boyfriend doesn't have a barn. His dad, as long as I was making up a boyfriend, I figured I'd give him an impressive lineage, is a lawyer. Rob wrote, "So, dump him, come for a ride." It was right then that Hank Wendell leaned over and went, "Wiley, Wiley." On the other side of Rob, Greg Wiley leaned over and went, "Suck on this, Wendell." "Both of you," I hissed through gritted teeth. "Shut the hell up before Mrs. Clemming looks over here." Hank sent his paper football flying into Wiley's direction, but Rob struck out his hand and caught it before it got to where it was supposed to. "You heard the lady," he said in this dangerous voice. "Knock it off." Both Wiley and Wendell simmered down. Boy, Mrs. Clemens had been right. It was amazing what a little estrogen could do. "Okay," I wrote, "one condition." He wrote "no conditions" and underlined it heavily. I wrote in big block letters, "Then I can't go." He seen what I was writing before I finished, and he snatched the notebook from me looking annoyed and wrote, "All right, what?" Which was how, an hour later, we were headed for Powley.